Welcome back to Life with the Corrys. My name is Cicely Corey. I am here with my wonderful husband,
Darius Lamar Corey.
Wow, full name. In our last episode, we honestly we just divided it in two, hence the same clothes. We talked about the story of us, right? The story of us, but the heart behind the episode is when life has you looking for love, and so we figured we'd take a little bit more time to talk less about us and more about like just giving advice to singles, married folks, just relationship advice in general based off of our experiences in case you are out there looking for love, or maybe you're in love and you looking to take the next step. So
So we were having a conversation prior to this part of the recording where we were asked by our Yaya who asked first, right? Or who pursued first, and it was my wife.
who said that they liked the other first?
Oh, if it's that, I don't think we can establish who
Yeah,
did.
I don't know, but I will say that I feel like I was a bit
You were
more.
more assertive.
Yeah, I was more assertive. I was more upfront.
Yeah.
Than you were.
Yeah.
Starting out.
I was intimidated.
Yeah.
And you were assertive. Well, I misunderstood that question, but I think the question that I answered was who said what to who first, and I said it was you still.
Yeah.
And I think the conversation that we have oftentimes is, or I think the expectation is that the man pursues the woman, and I kind of push against that. I have a little pushback because I think we live in an era where women have the same jurisdiction to be as assertive as men should be. Like in our case, you can run into situations where we're equal. Men are just as insecure as women. Men have the same struggle. Women have the same struggles as men. Not the same, but we have very common insecurities in regards to companionship, dating, and relationships. And so I feel like we're in an era where everybody has equal opportunity to shoot their shot. And you never know that, your assertiveness could validate him being like, okay, well, I can be confident enough. Or maybe I just don't know. I'm afraid to know if she's going to respond to me the way I want to.
Yeah.
And I just need that little nudge. And as a result, an example of, oh, okay, well, she is interested. So, I'll work through my insecurities eventually. I have aspirations to do that. But it's good to know that this person has an interest the same as I do.
Yeah, I think there's this picture that we can paint of a man being the dominant person in a relationship and the woman being the submissive person, and absolutely there are times and roles for those things, but I also think that it is okay for a woman to let a guy know, like you can let him know that you like him. Now I will say though, and you didn't say it this way before, so I want to make sure that this is not how you meant it. And I don't necessarily think that a woman should pursue a man. Yeah, and so I figured that.
Right.
But I do think that it's okay for a woman to drop some hints, like that she wants to be pursued. A lot of times we can be so caught up in being found by your husband, that, or found by your husband, that you don't think you need to do anything, like he has to do all the work.
Find my Boaz. Is that what y'all say?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, that's what. Sorry, I'm not gonna.
I mean, I don't even know if Boaz is even a story that people still talk about in church today.
It's an
honestly.
aged churchy stigma.
I think that there is no, and I sort of hinted to this before when I was talking about just the nature of how our relationship was when we first met and some of the insecurities that we bought into it. There really is no cookie cutter way to get into a relationship and it evolves into an engagement and into marriage. And I think that when in Christian culture, we can paint this picture of, man pursues woman and all of these things go the way that they should, and he courts her, and asked for her hand in marriage, and it's just like this very eloquent love story that's told. I don't know, like our story would be boring if it happened that way. I think,
Yeah.
to me, there is interest. Like we can tell our grandkids, like your grandfather was trash when I met him. Okay, he was staying with whoever,
Okay.
and nah, I'm just playing. I wouldn't call him trash, but like there are ups and downs and ebbs and flows of how we got to where we are now, and it was not, by no means was it like this perfect love story.
Yeah. Yeah. And to kind of not piggyback, but go back to the previous point, I think expressing interest, just like with men, if women express interest to a man and it's not successful, I think like us, and I could give you this advice from me, even as a man, that does not reflect who you are. You don't who you are. So if
Say
if,
more.
if a woman say, hey, you all right, you know what I'm
You
saying?
all right.
You all right, and I hope you feel the same way about me, or I want to see where this goes, and it doesn't go anywhere. Speaking from someone who has dated and has had unsuccessful attempts, I don't think that should ever be a reflection of who you are. And I think
Yeah,
when
okay.
you have failed attempts at pursuing someone and you're like, well, this ain't working out, maybe it's me.
Yeah.
I would immediately challenge the fact that it's not you. As a matter of fact, if you know what you want, you pursue it, just like with anything else, whether it's life, whether it's career goals, anything, there's going to be opportunities where that part of you will be tested, but their response in you is not a reflection of who you are. And I think we are an example of that. You didn't think any less of yourself when I didn't respond to you the way you were, because you knew that you were the bomb.
Yeah.
The bomb. Good grief. I
Wow.
just aged myself. But you knew
Unk.
the value of yourself despite how I responded to it.
Right. And I think that's the key. That's the key, is that like you can't get into a relationship, or you can't desire to be pursued, and you don't have full knowledge of your
Yeah.
value. I think before I met you, there were, like, I come across as a very confident person and someone who knows their worth, but it certainly wasn't always that way. Like, and the ironic thing is that the guy that I dated before we started our relationship was the one relationship that made me feel less than,
Yeah.
who I felt like I was, and that's how I knew that it wasn't a relationship for me. But you have to know your value. You have to know what you personally are worth. And I think that you can get so caught up in wanting to be married by a certain time, wanting to have kids by a certain time, that you or so caught up in the pursuit of a relationship that you actually don't take the time to pause and say, okay, like, am I okay? Like, just me as a person.
Yep.
And not wishing, hoping, and dreaming for someone to join you. Like, that's a great, aspiration, a great goal, a great thing to desire, absolutely. But you can have that person that is that you desire walk right in front of you, and if you are not where you personally need to be, you'll either miss that person walking by, or they will move on because they realize that, like, the match is not there. Anyway, I think that, yeah, you just struck a chord with me, and it's like value is something that you have to have. If
Yeah.
you're a single person, if you're single and you want to be in a serious relationship and you want to be married, you first have to get to know yourself and know the value, so that when truly trash people do come across, you're not,
Yeah.
lowering your standards to be with people and stuff like that. I can say that because I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's the funny thing is we talk about this all the time when it comes to careers. You know that you have the acumen to pursue, you have the skill set, you have the experience, you have everything to have a job that you pursue. You apply for it, you don't get it. You apply for another job, you don't get it. And after a certain point, you wonder if you. Well, no, there's some people that's like, nah, I know I got it. So what's the problem? The market is trash. The market is trash. What's going on with these businesses? They don't want this. They don't want that. There's also opportunities where you're like, man, am I really adequate? But no, you have the resume. And I think that should also bleed over into relationships. It's like, I know what I bring to the table, and unfortunately, you will not probably immediately be affirmed in that. You can even be in a relationship with somebody long term or for a certain amount of time and it's unsuccessful. Again, you still, that does not, I think that journey is not reflective of who you are. But I do know that shortcomings, to your previous point, not assessing who you are prior to a relationship could also be the reason why relationships are unsuccessful, why marriages are not successful, because there's not an opportunity like we had, thankfully, where you can attack problems within yourself early enough to where it doesn't devastate your marriage.
Yeah.
I have heard where people get married, be married for years, have kids grow up, and they're getting divorced. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, you guys have been, you talking about, you just got your 30-year anniversary. And I think it's because there were some things that probably they did not assess within themselves, or they didn't take time to say, hey, that feels like that's a problem that we should attack.
Yeah.
Before, you get to the place where you are too aged to rectify that problem with you. And now it's just tearing us apart.
Yeah.
You'd rather not be a part of my life anymore and live with your, not inadequacies, but whatever that flaw is, than to fix what you have.
I'm debating on whether or not I want to go down that lane or whether I want to, because I mean, I know we could go down a lane where we talk about our first year of marriage.
No, we don't have to. We can continue.
And I think that probably deserves its own episode.
Yeah.
Maybe not even this season.
I agree.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But the long and the short of it is that our first year of marriage was very tough.
It was our worst year.
It was our worst year, and that were like just a few months after our wedding, I was contemplating if I had made a mistake, and at no point did I think, oh, I'm going to divorce him. But I certainly thought like we need to take some time apart. But we'll save that story for another day. One thing, you just gotta subscribe and keep listening to the podcast because you don't know when we're gonna release it. So that's on you. So I will. One thing that I want to ask you though is like, what is one thing or what are some things that now in marriage that you wish or you think would just be helpful to know or to be mindful of? And if you need time to think, I could probably make up one of my
own. One of the biggest learning or growing opportunities for me when being married is that I have to consider, like, I think you're my other half part.
Yeah.
I think it's very cliche, or initially it was cliche.
Yeah.
Oh, this is my other half. We become one. This is my rib. This is my.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I think maybe year 3 or 4 that it was like, bro, I really have to consider you in the way I live now.
I think even before that, like I remember pretty early in our marriage where like you would go out and you wouldn't let like you just be out.
Yeah.
It was like, you didn't text me, you didn't call me, you didn't like home? I thought you were on the side of the road somewhere. Like yes. I never thought I would say that. I thought you was in the ditch dead.
Yeah.
But I like
now this is not an excuse, but in regards to how I was raised, I'm my mother's only child. And my mom raised me the best she could. She was my biggest cheerleader before my wife. But I didn't have a strict, she raised me very well, but I didn't have a strict upbringing. Mm-hmm. So, there was a certain level of leniency to where I could just be myself as long as I was safe and as long as I came home. And I grew with that same mentality. And so I never had to answer to anybody.
Yeah.
And so I didn't consider that in the person that cared for me and was like, all right, she I'm alive. And, I realized how much that impacted her because it was like, look, I'm a part of your life now.
Yeah.
And me, I'm like, well, you at first I was like, this is how I am, which is the very toxic trope in relationships is you have to accept me for me.
Yeah, that's actually what I was gonna say. Is that you? No, I don't. I want to
No,
derail you.
no,
Go
you're
ahead.
good. But, that was something that I had to not necessarily die to, but I definitely had to amend that part of my life was that not it wasn't just, hey, when I say you and my other half, it wasn't just, hey, what you want to eat before I come home, but
Right.
how would you feel in me doing this?
Yeah.
How would you feel even if you never knew what I did, and I never did anything that you would second guess or be appalled by what I did, but I really had to have the mentality of, am I the same person? Am I making the same decisions if you were beside me as I am now?
Yeah.
And if there's ever a point where there's a difference, or if there's a difference, then that's something that we need to assess.
Right. Right.
And so I really consider, I'm like, hey, if I go out with my friends, you know, prior to, I like to drink, and I liked to a certain point be intoxicated. But as I got older, I was like, I know my wife doesn't like this level of intoxication.
Yeah. Like I don't want you coming home drunk. Yeah.
Yeah, and even just being in that state just didn't make you feel good. And I was
Right.
like, there's a certain level of integrity that I have to have for sake of this relationship that I committed to, regardless if she'll ever see that side of me, because this is not a life or a person that I want to be, that I put on. A lot of times you hear the jokes of when guys get with their fellas, like, oh, we about to paint the town red. I don't know what to say, but they have the opportunity to be the person that they can't be at home, when in actuality, I think that is not conducive. That's not, I don't condone that. Now, yes, you should definitely let loose, but definitely have the mentality of, would I act like this around my wife, or would she find this okay? Now, there may be some conversation that you need to have to say that, hey, I need you to understand that this is okay, despite how you feel. But I definitely had the mentality of, I always have to consider my wife in the decisions that I make.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can speak more on that, but yeah, like that part of me, it started off with, ooh, I didn't get food for her, so maybe I should call her. And then it was like, ooh, if I'm at the mall and I see some shoes for myself, maybe I should think of my wife. But later it started to be like, God really started restructuring the way I thought. Like as I continued to spend time with my wife and just really learn what the cohesion, if that's a word, cohesiveness of being a marriage was. Now it was like, would I even have this type of conversation if she was here? Or how would I
Yeah.
respond? And it helped me change my mind from being a single Darius to being a married Darius.
Yeah. I mean, that was a difficult thing for us to get to get over. Now you pass it on to me, bro. Cooties.
You know how it is.
Yeah, because like the way that you conduct yourself, in my mind, I had the expectation that the way that you would conduct yourself with me would be the way that you would conduct yourself with others. And I think what marriage will teach you a lot about yourself and the things that
100%.
you need to work on, and the things that you thought were okay that are not okay. Because if you have the right spouse, your spouse will be a mirror to you and will show you who you are, but not in a like chastising way, in a helpful way.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to help you to be better. And so, there were things that like people pleasing and like, just like changing who you are depending on who the crowd that you're around and stuff like that you would do, that I don't think you do that now. I don't think you do that now. But early in our relationship, those were things that I noticed and things that we had to talk about, because there would be conversations that you would have with certain people where it was like, that's actually a bit disrespectful, but that's the person that you thought that you had to be in order to appeal to those people.
And the toxicity in that was, I used to defend that person against you. I'm like, sweetheart, you have to understand that this is okay because this is who I am. Or not even like, I never took that approach of this is me, but it was like, I would be so adamant in trying to convince you that it was harmless to us.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that you're sitting here and telling me, I don't like the way that makes me feel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I get that, but you shouldn't feel like that.
Yeah.
And, after a couple of those, I'm like, ooh, that's actually toxic of me to be like, I need to convince you that the way you feel is unjustified because I'm me and I need to make you see my side so that you can stop feeling that way.
Yeah.
And that was a very single or independently minded Darius, as opposed to, I need to consider you.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, babe, I would rather you not fill in the bank. Or,
Yeah.
that I'm telling you that doesn't make me feel good. And,
I think learning to communicate those things is important
yeah.
too. Like, so I'm approaching all of this from the standpoint of, like, we talking to single people. We've been out the game for a good little bit, and so we have our I guess you would say, like, our assistant producer is single. So if you got more questions, you could just shout them out, and we'll answer them. But to your earlier point of, like, the biggest thing I think that I had to adjust, not necessarily adjust to, but I think just the biggest lesson is that you are going to change.
Yes.
Married Cicely is not the same as single Cicely. Mom Cicely is not the same as wife Cicely. Like, I have evolved, and he has evolved, and I think that I underestimated how much you would change as a person once you connected your life with another person. And I don't know if I don't know. I think that's just something that I'm just stating. Is more, it's not even really like advice, but I'm just like, one thing that you're going to realize when you get married is that there is this evolution that takes place. Like, you truly are making a story together. You truly are, like, building a life together. And I think that people will like approach it with a little more, I don't know, a little more care, a little more preparation, a little more like thoughtfulness in terms of, like, we not just out here dating willy-nilly. Like, once you make a decision that, like, all right, I'm ready to get serious about something, there's a deeper inner work that has to take place anyway.
Yeah. It's not this extreme, but I liken to, we travel a lot. So I liken to when you get into marriage, it's kind of like, it's like moving in another region. You have to adjust to the culture. And I think as a result, as you adjust, you change. And if you were to return, like, you go back home, say if you move to New York, you become a New Yorkian, you move back down to Georgia, people be like, yeah, you've changed.
Yeah.
Because that's what required. That's what's required. I think single Darius, I would not survive with the single mentality being married to you, or being a father, or being a husband, because that region required for me to adjust to what is required to live, to survive beside you, and survive having two kids, because it just required that level of adjustment.
Yeah. I think we should end this conversation with one point of advice that we would give to our listeners. And I'm going to talk specifically to the young ladies that are listening. And I'm going to say this, that you need to find you someone who you don't mind smelling their farts, like, no matter what. Because your husband,
I thought she was gonna be serious, bro.
I'm being serious. This is a real thing.
You're right.
You got your husband. I don't know what takes place in the bodies of men. And honestly, or maybe it's just my husband, I don't know. But I on the internet, on Instagram, I see that other husbands, like other wives, are like, girl, mine too. So I'm going to say this in thinking that all husbands sort of live in this land of farting all throughout their sleep, right? And then, like, I don't know why he got a fart, and then he flips over. And so, like, now you don't wave the covers. It's like, I can see the green coming out. You know how on cartoons, the fumes come out. Okay. The cabinets are going to be open.
Jeez Louise.
The cabinet's going to be open all the time. Like, these are things that you just have to, are you okay with The person that you're with doing the most annoying things and still being like, you know what? I still love you. It's rocking in this room right now, but I still love you. I just stubbed my knee on the dishwasher that you left open, but I still love you. Sometimes, more often than not, you miss that hamper, that shot. It don't connect. It don't connect.
I feel like
It land right.
these bullets are
It
getting a little long
land,
now.
land right there. But I still love you. I still love you. And I think you just no, but in serious, I'm picking at him because I love him. But I will say that we can get so caught up in like superficial stuff and shallow stuff, but you really do have to have like forever is forever. Is forever. And I think that nowadays we live in a world where I don't know if people really think about the forever of marriage. They think of it as of like until I get tired of it. And maybe that'll be forever, maybe it won't. But I got married with the intent of not getting divorced, of it being forever. And so I have to think about like no matter what, I'm going to love this person. And once you stick around long enough to hear the episode about our first year of marriage, you'll see how grace and forgiveness and compassion and consideration and patience and how all of these things come into play in a marriage if you really want it to work. You like I can't stress enough the unconditional nature of marriage. We live in a very conditional world, but marriage to us was a covenant, is a covenant. It's a covenant that we took before God. And because we took a covenant before God, I feel like it is my responsibility to take it seriously. And so if you think about the bigness of God and our agreements that we make with him and the responsibility that comes with that, little things like all the little nitpicky stuff that I just named, like that's small in the grand scheme of things, and that you can apply that to any part of your calling. And I had a conversation with somebody about this when we were talking about during election season, and I won't get into this because it could be a whole thing, but this is totally off topic, but sort of related. I think that in America, because of the type of Christianity that we experience here, we get so caught up on like all of these very small issues that we make so big, right? And when in actuality, the bigness of God and all that he calls us to do has very little to do with if someone is a conservative Christian or if someone got an abortion or if someone like these are of course these are important, these are moral things, absolutely, but these are things that don't have a lot to do with someone's soul salvation.
Yeah.
And so the point that I'm making there is that when it comes to relationships, do not get distracted by the little things. Focus on, well, I mean, don't ignore the little things, but focus on the things that are going to be like foundational. Does this person have the same morals as me? Does this person have the same values as me? How does this man treat his mom? How does this man treat people in general? I already told y'all that he be out here saving turtles. Like that's a real thing. When I met him, I met a man who was willing to say yes to an assignment that was given to him on the spot to give us a tour of a museum that he had just toured himself. So I saw a man who rose to an occasion that he was not prepared to and did it. Meanwhile, he probably was freaking out the whole time. But that is who I saw that day. What? And that is who I was impressed by that day. And that is what I saw that day. I didn't see a man who was nervous and a man who I didn't know anything about him, but I didn't see the struggles that he had beyond that. I just saw the integrity that he had in that moment to say yes to something. And that a small gesture to me spoke to his character and who he was as a person. And because of who I began to see who he was in that moment, I was like, okay, this is somebody who I could, I want to get his attention.
You could rock with.
Right. I want to get his attention, even though he didn't tell me about the menu at Vapiano.
That's because I didn't know it. So here's how we are, and we can wrap this up in a second.
Yeah, we gonna wrap it.
The yin and the yang of us. The challenges that you see in your marriage are the things that I think are like the beauties of us. So I don't know. I think I harken back to where it's like when I am led into a part of your life that's not so pretty, I see it as a beauty because again, it's something that I earned. You know, you to get the BTS, so behind the curtain of something that you treasure so much, there's a certain je ne sais quoi about I have earned this. So like, you know, with her, it, you know, she was always, you know, cute and she always presented herself well, you know, but then it was like when she first was on the phone with me and she was like, oof, I gotta take a deuce. I knew that I had broke the threshold of I have earned this. And so in marriage, when we're having conversations with the bathroom door open, or I'm gonna keep it funky with you. I think the precipice or the apex was when you had our first child, and I saw
all glory,
everything that comes with my child as he crowns from my beautiful wife. At that point, it was nothing. Nothing can top that.
Yeah, I know.
And
I don't think
the fact that
that boo boo water with August.
Yeah, that was. But here's the thing: I was already, you know, we
were in it.
I was. What do you call it? War ready.
It was. Yeah.
And so, you know, for me, and I'm weird like this. Like, of course, matrimony, one of the best days of my life. Having sex, excellent. But it was the side where you not only have my child, but the ugly side of you having my child was a beauty to me because this is something that no one else will get. And look, you may not have wanted to be in that state. You didn't want to be bust wide open. And, you know, having more than just babies come out. But for me, it was like, you know, I have earned this place and posture in your life. And so, you know, after that, you know, doing everything with the door open and having conversation, I'm like, whatever. I've hash brown. Life. So, yeah. That's it. Thank y'all.
Baby.
I keep hitting you hard.
Why do you, like,
That's my bad.
I'm about to start sitting on the other side of the couch.
I'm still going to reach over there, too.
They don't think I don't like
thank you all for being here. If you like, please like. Let us know what you want us to talk about next. Again, just have conversation with us. We will get back. I know I will get back to you all. But
he will.
Follow us and all this stuff. We love you all for being here with us so far. And we will see you all the next time.
We got outro music.
What's happening right now? And you know what? It's probably not going to be on there.
At all.
Love y'all. Thank you. Peace.